Spirituality, what does that really mean? To be honest, I don't even know myself, but it was the name that was sort of intuitively given to me. I think that when we go deep into being, deep into ourselves, deep into the nature of reality, we find something that's called, could be called the unknown, or in Christian mysticism, it can be called the cloud of unknowing, don't know mind in Zen Buddhism. And from that springs things that is in many ways where our intuition come from, where spontaneity come from, where our actual true being is expressed from. So that is where the name came from. It just came to me like an intuition. But if I were to, and I will, if I were to try to explain it or rationalize it, bring it down to like an intellectual level, I would say that saying that everything is spirituality is, of course, kind of like an oxymoron. It's not, I don't think it is exactly an oxymoron, but it's a contradiction in some ways. It is paradoxical, at least, which is very indicative of spirituality in general, and definitely this expression, everything is spirituality. I'm reminded of Ramana Maharshi's words that, well, he echoed other people before him, but he famously said that the world is illusion. The world is illusion. Sorry, everything. The world is illusion. Brahman alone is real. Brahman is the world. I'm gonna take it again. So the world is illusion. Brahman alone is real. Brahman is the world. That is also, I mean, it doesn't really make any sense when you just say it to the narrative self, to the intellectual self, to the thinking mind. It doesn't make any sense to say that, because it it just doesn't. But to your true self, to something within you, which can, resonate, even though you don't understand, something within you resonates with it. You intuitively understand it, or don't, but you can understand it. And it's the kind of understanding that in Buddhism they call prajna. It is not intellectual understanding, but it's some type of other understanding. It's more like wisdom, where you just know. It's a deeper knowing, which also is, of course, paradoxical, because we say don't know mind, and not knowing, the cloud of unknowing. And on the other hand, we say another type of knowing. That is, again, like the difference between intuition and the rational mind, the thinking mind. The thinking mind, which is based or it's steeped in dualistic terms, in dualistic thinking, cannot understand what the mystical traditions speak about. It's just impossible, because it is by its very nature dualistic, and what the traditions teach us is a sort of oneness, or even non-duality. In the Heart Sutra, for example, in Zen Buddhism, or in Buddhism in general, they speak about this. Not it's it's that our own mind can be enlightened, and when it becomes enlightened, we go beyond duality. Basically, they end it with gatte gatte paragatte parasangatte bodhisvaha, which basically means beyond, gone way beyond awakening. Oh, how wonderful, something like that. And that is the idea to be conveyed, that we go beyond the mind, beyond the intellectual mind, beyond conceptual understanding, so to speak, go beyond dualistic terms, go beyond thinking. That's why everything that is said is not it. And it's even so to the degree that if we take Nagarjuna, another Buddhist scholar who has this doctrine of neti neti, I think it's called. It basically means not this, not that. It has connotations or similarities with the apophatic theology within Christian mysticism, where you can only say what God isn't, basically. God is not this, God is not that, not this, not that, not this, not that. And so the world in that sense is neither dual or non-dual even. It is neither oneness nor not oneness. It is not even a combination of the two of the two concepts, or something, a combination, or neither of them. There's only negation, and we end up with nothing. And we can't even say that. It's not that we end up with nothing. Even that is negated. That is what Gati Gati, Paragati, Parasangati, Bodhisvaha, going beyond really means. Or, yeah, that's the thing. We can't understand it in that way. It is an actual reality. It is an actual experience. And yeah, coming back to everything is spirituality. It's just a way of saying that this right now is spirituality. So we can, in a way, view it through different lenses and cognitively try to understand it or explain it in different ways. And the finger can be pointing to a moon that is awakening or enlightenment, but it could also be pointing at a different moon, and that is sort of like kind of more of an intellectual understanding of what it means. So if we say that everything is spirituality, we can also, in quotation, then dumb it down and say that, yeah, all our experiences can be viewed as spiritual, in that they are alive with being, with awakening, with awakeness, with enlightenment. This very moment right now, as every moment ever, is an invitation to awakening, or is awakening itself. Dogen Sanji, another famous Zen guy, famously said that taking the Zazen position, that means sitting Zen, sitting meditation basically, is itself enlightenment. So just, we can take it even further and just say this very moment right now is enlightenment, because there's no else. There is no other moment here. There's always just this moment all the time. There's no other moment than this, what Zen Buddhism also sometimes called the ordinary mind, or the don't know mind even. Is this very mind, your own mind, which is, yeah, you could call it consciousness or nothing. It's just this suchness, isness, beingness, whatever, doesn't really matter. One thing I also often think about is meaningfulness. Like, spirituality to me, to speak about it in conceptual ways and not just talk about it in paradoxical, beyond ways, can also be seen as just what is of deep importance to us, or what is most meaningful for us. That deep meaningfulness cannot be measured, it can't be seen, it can't be touched. So what is most important to us is ethereal in some way. It's immaterial. It's you could call it a feeling, but it's something that goes beyond that. Meaningfulness, what is that? Yeah. To me, at least, that can be seen as spiritual. If you're an atheist, sure, you could say that, yeah, I don't see it as being spiritual. And that's fine, of course. It doesn't really matter. So I still find that there's something that goes beyond thinking, at least. I think even an atheist would agree with that. Something that we cannot really understand, just something that's just so profound, so deeply meaningful for us. And we don't fully understand it. We don't understand the existential dread or the existential predicament we are in. It is something that goes beyond our understanding. We can't explain the love for our children, the love for the world, the love for our spouse, or whatever it is that we're feeling. Can't really explain it. It's just something it's just there, and we don't know what it is, but it's deeply meaningful for us. To me, that is in a way, I mean, we can say, yeah, it's just the brain making it up, just as the brain is making consciousness up. But we can't really, we're not in love with our brain chemicals. We can't even see consciousness. We don't even know how consciousness is created. So, yeah, I notice I'm trying to convince an atheist to believe in spirituality, and that's not something I really want to do. So forgive me. But yeah, I believe that for anyone, an atheist or a non-atheist, whatever that may be, can have the similar or same experience from going deeply into beingness or consciousness through, I would suggest doing meditation. That is what all these different traditions teach us to inquire. If we take Ramana Maharshi or Zen Buddhism again, to what is called self-inquiry, or ask the question, who am I, or what is this? And just see for ourselves. Like the Buddha said, you don't need to believe me, just try it out. Do the experiment, so to speak. Here the experiment is in your own consciousness, in your own phenomenology, your own existence, and see what happens. And what people who do that say is that it becomes deeply meaningful. There's actually similarities with, should I mention this? Yeah, with psychedelics. People who do go through a psychedelic assisted psychotherapy, or just anecdotally, they say that it was one of the top 3 most important or most meaningful, actually, experiences of their lives. Why is that? Well, we could say that it's because of the brain states, the change in brain states, but doesn't really say very much. How come it is so meaningful? We touch ourselves deeply, basically. That is one way of describing it. With psychedelics, we go deeply into being, into consciousness, into this reality. And that's just what people say in studies that are done. And it's also what people say who do spirituality, and do it especially people working the mystical traditions and doing this meditation or self-inquiry, or could be any type of meditation like noting or body scanning or counting the breath or whatever. When they do that over time, they touch themselves deeply, and they can touch themselves so deeply that what they thought were themselves is dissolved, and that is what is called nirvana or fana in Sufism. moksha, theosis, Kensho, Satori. There's many names for it. Not exactly the same thing, but sort of similar. That can happen when we go deeply into our beingness. We go beyond the mind. We go beyond our, what the traditions call identification with the self, the narrative mind, self-referencing mind, the ego, whatever you want to call it. And it's seen through, could be for a blink of an eye, or it can be a permanent transition where we end up in a different spot, sort of. We experience the world really differently, and it becomes, again, much more meaningful. Because when it's not obscured in the same way, or less obscured at least, by the egoic thoughts, the grasping and aversion that Buddhism speaks about, or what evolutionary psychology speaks about, how we're built basically to want, status, goods, money, those things, which never lead to happiness, of course. But it's hard to stop it because it's so, as they call it, hardwired. But when we make these changes happening in the brain, we actually change the hardwiring of the brain, and in turn, our subjective experience of the world, of ourselves, and it becomes deeply meaningful, and everything becomes spirituality. Everything becomes an awakening. Everything becomes this very moment, which has, endless depth, and it's ordinary and profound in the same instance. So waking up to that, waking up to the truth of everything is spirituality, or as Ramana Maharshi says, the world is illusion. So we see through it with the help of meditation or some other spiritual practice. We realize that the world is deeply profound. We realize our true nature, as they speak about in the Zen Buddhism. And that's when I say Brahman alone is real, or God alone is real. And then says that Brahman is the world. So it's not that there's an illusion and there's God, that they are separate. It's the same thing. There's nothing outside of this moment. There's nothing to seek. There's nothing to gain. That's what we wake up to. So awakening means just an end to the search, an end to depression for some people, an end to seeking again, an end to being driven by the evolutionary psychological impulses, by grasping and aversion, or at least being driven by them to a lesser extent. It can, of course, be ameliorated with psychotherapy or lots of different modalities. But in the end, I think for most people, to get that existential rock thrown out, we need to go to some sort of spiritual practice, or whatever we want to call it. We can call it a meditative practice, and really inquire into the nature of existence. If we feel like it, if that's in the cards for us. And then there's an opening to have a different kind of experience of the world, different kind of love for the world, for yourself, for, basically anything. So, don't know if that made any sense, but that's my version of everything is spirituality. Thank you.